Hi, continuing my thoughts for today, and this is the fourth time today of my trying to record this video because some guy across the yard across from mine, keeps every so often starting up his weed whacker or his blower, his leaf blower, and I think he's done, and I start recording, and then he starts up again. So hopefully fifth time will be the charm. Anyways, that's, well, see what I do for you, what I go through to bring you these videos 5 days a week. And today's video, today's thoughts, we'll be talking, I don't know, when was the last time that I bashed the liberal media? Maybe not that long ago, because I do it quite often because, well, frankly, they deserve it. And today, they will especially be deserving it because we will be talking about, we'll be talking about hypocrisy. We'll be talking about gaslighting, trying to convince you that something you see with your own two eyes that you're not really seeing, and and a refusal to take responsibility. So today we have a threefer, okay, on the media, and it all stems from a new book that Jake Tapper has out. He's, if you don't know who he is, he's a CNN talking head. Has a book out, co-written with somebody else. I'm not going to bother to look up his name. And it's about the Biden mental decline. And, well, you know, before we get to that, I'm going to show you a video of, well, two videos today. And the first one, let's just go back into the past and show you some videos, including Jake Tapper. He should be the first one that you see in this video, talking about Donald Trump, about, they talked about him too, his mental fitness, but of course about him they were lying. Well, and they were lying about Biden too. That is the whole point. So let's just see what they were, what these Democrats were saying about including supposed journalists who are supposed to give us the objective facts. And here's what they said about Joe Biden in 2024 and perhaps earlier, before he dropped out of the election.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
It's very clearly a cognitive decline. Okay. That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no this is so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline. President Biden embraces his stutter, talking about it, while Trump mocks it, exaggerates it, belittles it. He's sharp physically. I mean, mentally. Yeah. I think the question is physically, right?
Right.
More so?
Right.
Right. And the guy who's his chief opponent is only 3 or 4 years younger than him.
Exactly.
I mean, you have questioned President Biden's age, mental fitness, ability to lead. Of those supporting Biden, you said, quote, "Shame on all of you pretending everything is okay. You're leading us and him into a disaster." Do you worry that you damaged him at all? I don't doubt that you got hugs and handshakes behind closed doors today, and maybe even publicly, some of them because they like you personally. But I've heard a lot of really nasty stuff about you from your Democratic colleagues. Sure. I mean, just like, what is he thinking? Exercise in narcissism. I mean, false claims to the Wall Street Journal about President Biden's mental fitness and acuity. He's 81, and his memory, it doesn't seem great. It's not horrible, but I don't understand the outrage. Quote, "Behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping," unquote. The Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp, which is run by the Murdochs. Beyond the headline, there is some critical nuance here. The article is mostly based on observations of Republicans, with former Speaker Kevin McCarthy the only one going on the record. They do note in the article that most of the criticism comes from Republicans. Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slower? No.
That was then. Now we're going to go to a video from now. Now, I told you Jake Tapper has this book out, and the book is about Joe Biden's mental decline and the efforts that the White House took to hide it, to cover it up, but nothing about, which is what we'll be getting to, about the press's helping him to do it, helping the White House to do it. Full participants, they knew what was going on, but at first I'm going to sum this all up for you in two very succinct tweets that say the whole thing, so you won't be fooled and you won't be distracted. But first, let's just show one more video. This is Jake Tapper just this week. I'm recording this on Wednesday. You're seeing it on Thursday, so this would have been, Monday or Tuesday. And, well, take a look.
I'm just curious as to whether or not this kind of trying to hide what was happening with the president at the time had an impact on the press corps. Like, why didn't we hear some of these details from what they actually saw and were dealing with trying to get information?
Well, Alex Thompson and I were on the case, as were lots of other reporters, trying to figure out what was going on behind the scenes. But the bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic members of Congress, to donors about how bad things had gotten. And in fact, Alex and I started writing this book after the election of 2024. And we spoke with more than 200 people, most of whom, almost all of whom, were Democrats, and almost all of whom wouldn't be honest with us or wouldn't be candid with us until after the election. And then after the election, we found out all of these things that when you looked at what was going on with President Biden at the time, it probably doesn't surprise you the extent to which he was deteriorating. But now we have anecdotes and facts about what was really going on behind the scenes with details that Democrats wouldn't share with us until after Election Day.
Okay, so what you did not hear, what you just did not hear in that video that you just saw is mea culpa. It talked about the White House covering up Biden's mental decline, but nothing about the press covering it up, including, as you saw in that first video, Jake Tapper covering up too. And this is where the gaslighting comes in, because and the underestimating of intelligence, because we all knew what was going on, and he had to know too. It was a cover-up, and it was a cover-up that the press helped, and they still to this day, they will not admit it. They say, boy, we were really fooled by the White House. Shame on them. Well, shame on you, Jake Tapper, and those other talking heads you saw in the second video, and other Democrats. And somebody, his name is Charles C.W. Cook. He writes, he's a pundit, he writes for the National Review, and he had a couple of tweets that really sum up this whole thing. So I'm just going to give you those two tweets, and that'll be pretty much it for today. But, well, here's the first one. Quote, our sources lied to us, unquote. Okay, but most voters didn't have, quote unquote, sources. They had eyes, and they were told brazen lies by people who also had eyes. And that includes Jake Tapper and all these other Democrats that you saw in that second video. And, well, there goes the weed whacker guy again, and the snow and the leaf blower guy again. So I hope it's not disturbing you too much. So our source, that was the first tweet. Now here is the second one, and this is the important one. Don't overthink it. They, meaning Jake Tapper and all the people you saw in that second video, and others, they knew about Biden just as we knew about Biden, and a supermajority of Americans knew about Biden. They lied about it because they didn't want Trump to win. That's the story. The rest is noise, and that's what I wanted to share with everybody, because that is the story, and everything else is just noise. All this about being lied to, it's just nonsense. They all knew, but they wanted Trump to win. And this is a good time to end with a point that I made earlier, is that when did it change? When did they stop? When did the facade start to fall away? When did Biden's mental decline become so great, so obvious? Even though, as that Charles C.W. Cook just said, we all knew, we all saw it. We knew for never mind 9 months, never mind weeks, years. We knew about it. We saw it. They hid it, and that is the whole point. But as I said, when was the turning point? When was the pivot? When they started to pivot away, when the decline became so obvious that they could not deny it any longer. And of course, that was in the debate, that one debate in 2024 between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. His decline was so obvious. that even this lying, biased liberal media that we had, they could not hide it, and that raises this question, this point that I've made at least twice, and this will be the third time, but it's worth repeating. What if that debate had never happened? What if Joe Biden had said, well, Trump he's a convicted criminal, and by the way, that's on appeal, and I confidently predict that will be overturned, as the other thing, the Letitia James lawsuit. But don't get me off on that track. The point is that had that debate, if Biden had said, well, he's a convicted criminal, I will not lower myself to debate him, and that debate had not happened, then what would the press have done? All the way up to the election, they would have continued to cover up for him. They would have still continued to deny what we all saw with our own eyes. And hopefully, maybe with small caveat, unless the polls, which are already going against Biden, because everybody could see what shape he was in, never mind how horrible his presidency was, all his policies. Basically, I would say that Trump is spending maybe at least 50% of his time on damage control, or reversing the damage of the Biden administration. And he's doing a darn good job, too. But that's another thought for another day. The thought for today is that they would have still been very likely covering up from right up to the election. Once he got elected, then that would be different. Then they would try to push him out so that they could install Kamala Harris. We saw what a great candidate she was, and what her policies would have been had she won. But get Biden over the line, get him into the White House, and then push him out so that Kamala Harris could become president of the United States without winning, never winning an election. She never won a primary, let alone that. I mean, when she first ran in 2020, she dropped out after the first primary because I don't know if that went all the way through where she actually lost. Maybe the polls are so bad, so I don't know. My understanding is that she dropped out before that primary was over. So I'll stick with, we could say maybe she won one primary. No, she would have lost that primary. Never won a primary, and to be installed as president of the United States without having even won a primary, let alone an election. So there you have it. However much, and I expect to be bashing the media in the future because they are that bad. They are that bad, and they are that much of a danger to a free society that depends on getting accurate and at least fair information. And well, that's it for today. As I said, 92% negative coverage of Donald Trump, if that's your idea of, and the other way around for Obama, overwhelmingly positive coverage, and overwhelmingly positive coverage of Joe Biden, even though we could all see that he was, losing his mental acuity. That's, as I said, that's how bad they are. As the old saying goes, I wish I knew who said it so I can give them credit, but however much you hate the mainstream media, you do not hate them enough. And that's it. I hope whether you like me or hate me, your comments are welcome in the comments section below the video. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.